Good morning. This is 1 in 36, a presentation from Anderson Center for Autism, celebrating their centennial in 2024. 1 in 36 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism, and I am very happy to have on the show with me today Pamela Gunther, the founder and CEO of Fit and Fun Playscapes. And so Pamela, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning. It's great to be here.
Good. I'm glad. I know that we've gotten to know you primarily through our Anderson's Raise event, which just happened. So we can kind of touch base briefly on how that went for you. And I want to thank you for your support of that event. But this is really a great opportunity for you to just kind of educate me and our listeners about what Fit and Fun Playscapes is all about. We'll share your website a few times. It's fitandfunplayscapes.com. And I know you're a Hudson Valley person, read a little bit about you on the website and your team and such. A really interesting group of people. But why don't you start and just tell us the Fit and Fun Playscapes story and a little bit about yourself.
Perfect. Yes. So I just want to be clear. I always like to be upfront. I'm not an educator or anything like that. I'm actually a licensed architect in New York. Mother turned this, into this play advocate, sensory advocate kind of person to get people moving of all ages and abilities. So I started out as like I said, as an architect, and then I got asked to volunteer at my oldest son's school to help renovate the playground. And one of the first things they had us do was to paint games out on the blacktop areas. So this is probably about 15, 16 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so the principal, who knows everybody in the community, says, Pam, how about you? How about you lead this? And I was a shiny new mom there. And I'm like, sure, sign me up. I did it. And it was a lot of work. It was a labor of love, hands and knees, painting games outside. But we used a lot of colors. And what really struck me at that moment was when the kids came out, when it was all done, the joy that they had on the games.
Yeah.
Move through them and explore the different colors and all of that. So for me, that was magic. And I kind of started this side hustle a few years later and worked mostly out of my home, built it, learned, really started to, learn about and go to conventions, meet physical educators, adaptive physical educators, OTs, PTs, principal, everybody in the educational space. And I really started to embed myself in there. It was fascinating to me, Eliza.
Yeah.
Here I came to it just because I thought it would be a cool project for recess, but there were so many benefits to moving specifically certain ways that I've learned over, now we're in business almost over 13 years.
Yeah.
And so
many potential consumers, like you're talking about starting it as a project in an elementary school on a playground, but on your website, you can see very clearly that you're helping seniors. You're helping people with specific mobility issues at whatever age or point in their life they're at. And when you say moving in certain specific types of ways, I saw a couple of videos and pictures that look to me like some of the things that you've designed are specifically to help people move in a way that they're crossing the midline, which has demonstrated, and well-researched benefits to cognitive development and anxiety reduction and just being able to sort of feel more grounded. Yeah. So it's really, I think, just to give a little bit of my response, just having gone to your website again, it's fitandfunplayscapes.com. There's a lot of information there. And I love that you also started to meet people who from all walks of life, from all professions, who were doing this. So are you no longer practicing architecture? Has this become your full-time, no longer side hustle, gig?
This is my full-time gig. It has been for several years.
Okay.
I have 3 sons. 2 of them are neurodiverse. And again, that helped me understand from that parent perspective of what they were experiencing and the difficulties of focusing in the classroom and things. So we went from recess to portable rollout mats that used for activities during the winter time. And then, Eliza, in late 2018, I started to transform my outdoor games into sensory pathway decals.
Yes.
And then we were on NBC News 4 New York, and then things really changed.
Well, they often do after you're on News 4 New York. Congratulations. That's really exciting. I did have a question about the rollout mats. As I saw again on your website, I saw those and they looked really cool and portable, which especially for a lot of people who like maybe an OT who's working in a lot of different settings, because they might be coming to somebody's home and then going to a senior center and then going to an elementary school all in the same day, potentially, to see different clients. The idea of, or even for a family, having something portable when you go on vacation, when you go visit grandma and grandpa, to have something that really helps your kid feel grounded and with something positive to do in multiple locations. So this is a very practical question. When you roll it out on the floor, does it flatten? Have you done anything to make it like really easy to use? Does it stick it all to the floor so that it doesn't slip around when, you know, a 4-year-old is sort of excited and jumping on it or running over to it? What is it made of, those rollout ones specifically?
It's made of a material that has a textured back, so it kind of grips the floor in such a way so it rolls flat. We've looked at this quite extensively. We've been selling that product since probably 2017, maybe 16. And you know, it will move with you, but if the floor is clean, they can be used on gymnasium floors and on carpeted surfaces. And we really worked, put that product in front of a lot of different groups. We work very closely with SUNY Cortland's physical education department, specifically for adapted PE and their sensory integration lab. They use them all the time for all ages and abilities, and so they're pretty stable. Because of their material, their texture, their scale, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and easy to roll up and, you know, grab
and go. They're grab and go.
If you can grab a yoga mat, you can grab one of these. So that's great. And it also made me think, I live in a small village with sidewalks everywhere, which is really nice. And, you know, every morning there's little kids waiting to get their buses. And so on my morning walk, after most of them have gone to school, a number of families take out their sidewalk chalk, and there's one in particular that has sort of turned the corner. So this little girl has a way, I think her parents are trying to encourage her to maybe get out there more on her own. I think she's a new kindergartner or something. And so there's arrows and all sorts of stuff. But then there's the quintessential hopscotch, which I grew up with. I think my parents grew up with. So on a very sort of simplified level, do you happen to know if there's anything specific about seeing something on the ground and finding it, like, for some reason more accessible or more motivating to move on that than like signs on a wall kind of giving you verbal direction of something to do? Because it just seems like today, I'll be very honest, I was walking on it and I was like, I could easily just do this hopscotch thing right now because I loved it as a kid, and it like kind of instantly speaks to you. Is there any research behind that?
There is building research behind that, in the sense that so just to talk about that specific setting, right? We work with a lot of Department of Health and Community Health across the country, and we have a number of projects that integrate painted games out on the sidewalks. They connect the schools to the main street or the retail shops to the library, these connectors. And they're basically activity trails. In fact, I did one during COVID in my hometown because people got tired of walking. They wanted something else. And so to really take that space and transform that into an interactive experience, to move more, to socialize more and interact with each other because it's fun. Yeah. And to really learn more. There was a project in Maryland that we did several years ago, and they turned that into a literacy walk, and where the activity was also had meaning to the graphic painted design down there, and they tied it into social books and publications to have a conversation. So it really becomes an impetus for something just larger than fun, which is really important anyway. Yes. But it can be so much more. And so that's the beauty of what we do. And, recently we've And during the Raise event, we installed the decals in the mall.
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard we got special permission to do so, and that was great.
We got special permission to do that. We had a much larger installation at the mall here locally. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the mall.
Sure, of course.
It's a Poughkeepsie Galleria.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful experiment, like social experiment, because we put it down for people of all ages and abilities. And they're moving. There's mindful movements. There's fitness stations. There's a sensory path. There's letters, numbers. But the really fun stuff when you know you've got something good is when you see teens TikToking on it. Then
It's like one group prizes, you've won it once you get there. That's high praise.
When you get teens interacting and motivated, you're like, wow, this is really a success.
That's awesome. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I have a couple more questions for you about, you mentioned connectors. I love that idea of using this as in that way. And also we'll go over kind of all the places that you might want to think about utilizing them and how to go about obtaining them and what you're most proud of. I'm really curious what you're most excited about now and in the future. So we'll be right back. This is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. We'll be right back.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy. You know what? We should make an emergency communication plan. That way we're ready this year. At my dorm, we have emergency kits for earthquakes and wildfires, but I'm sure there's something more local I can send you with a link.
Okay.
Smart.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Somewhere, there's a river rushing through the woods while someone rushes through their day. There's a mountain looking up at the sky while someone looks down at their phone. A trail waiting to be walked while someone waits for a latte. This world is full of somewheres waiting for someone just like you. So go see yours at 154 national forests and 20 grasslands. And to learn more, visit nationalforest.org. The National Forest Foundation. See your somewhere.
And now, 1 in 36 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, and I'm talking with Pamela Gunther, who's the founder and CEO of Fit and Fun Playscapes. And you can find more information about them at fitandfunplayscapes.com. Pamela, great conversation so far. Is the website where people can go and actually purchase the products? Okay.
Yeah, you can directly purchase there, but I also want to point your audience to all the amazing blogs that we have, really informational with data, and testimonials. Our blog is a great resource. Parents and schools and hospitals.
I think it's great. The hospital thing makes perfect sense to me. I think just the idea of having anything in a school hallway, especially for, the early beginning of school where you're sort of going to get, fearing like you're going to get lost every day, don't know where things are. It really grounds you. And that, I mean, it's a little bit of a pun there, but I think it really does, having something that you can follow.
It does.
Reminiscent of a board game, sort of like it gives you that guide of, this direction to go.
The ones that are most popular are the ones that are really grounded in the science behind the movements, the colors, patterns, the sequences, the sensory paths used in the schools really enable a child to self-regulate, get the movement that they need. You talked about cross midline, but also the vestibular and proprioceptive and the tactile senses. It's really a great place where all of this can come together. And, to my sons, ADHD. And they just getting a drink of water in school wasn't cutting it. They needed, and so many kids do. And so I think that, visually it's very appealing and welcoming and engaging, but there's a lot of data behind what we do, a lot of research behind what we do. And the way we do it, visual cues, which is an evidence-based practice to engage, especially those on the autism spectrum. Visual discrimination is something what we embed in all of our in all of our designs, and so we've created this formula of graphics that really engage and work.
Yeah, I think everything that I saw on your website, and again, it's fitandfunplayscapes.com, really explain that in detail. And there is tremendous research here. So I think you found something or developed something really unique and kind of perfectly fits that gap. I do have a question that I'm going to save for another minute or two. But first, I want to ask you, let's go to the other end of the age spectrum. There's also a use for this with seniors, which at first I was like, I wonder why, because in the video that you had on your website, it didn't look like seniors who are really like sort of at the point in their lives where they're really not moving a whole lot. It looked like seniors who were, interacting socially, or maybe living in an assisted living, place, or just maybe an over 50, whatever, one of those sort of senior living, communities. But why do you think having something on the floor, visual, is helping seniors move more?
So a lot of our products come from personal experiences, myself and my team. And so my mom, who developed myasthenia gravis during COVID, went from being very active to wheelchair and trach bound. From one extreme to the other. And she came to me and she said, Pam, I can't do all these things, but I want to try. My friends can. And we worked together for almost 2 years before she passed last year. And so it's a bit of a legacy project. It's in infancy stages. And we started with more of the movement-based activities because that's where we're comfortable in. But working with a lot of different groups and how we're so what you see in that video is the first iteration. We have numerous concepts about how we can help seniors that are less mobile, ones that are in chairs and walkers. And I want to give away too much, but things that really zone in on their cognitive skills.
Yeah.
They are so scared of falling and dementia in that order. And when we developed that movement-based product, what we felt, we revised it several times because we went in focusing on those things. But you know what they really wanted to do, Eliza? They just wanted to socialize and have fun. And it became, they just wanted to laugh.
Laugh together, right?
Exactly.
Yes. Okay.
So people in chairs, or, there was a 90-year-old woman in there and she can barely see, but she's with someone who is more agile. And that's the social sauce, the connection.
Yeah, the social sauce. I love it.
I don't know.
I love it.
And they're together and they're figuring out together. And it's been a beautiful experience. And
that's wonderful. That's great. I love the story. I'm sorry to hear about your mom. But what a legacy, sort of in her honor and in her memory, the idea that just something new. I think that's the other thing, is that if you think about seniors, especially when you're hitting, your 80s and your 90s, these folks, my parents are both in their 80s. They've seen just about everything.
Right.
So introducing something new that maybe they haven't experienced or seen before, in and of itself, adds a bit of anticipation and all those fun, butterfly feelings and the things that are good for us in terms of feeling excited about something new, and maybe a little bit trepidatious, but also excited. And then you feel like, you're setting a new goal and you're trying something. So I love how broad the impact here can be. And now I'm going to go back to my other question, because it just popped into my head as you were talking about using these visuals and the decals, especially as connectors. I don't know if you probably do know, because Anderson. We have a program that we run from our ACT, our consulting and training team, called Autism Supportive Environments. So we do a lot of training in businesses, and we've even helped the village of Rhinebeck to become an autism supportive community, right? So there's a lot that goes into that, whether it's having sensory kind of items in your place of business, or just training your staff to be aware of the things that they can identify and the fact that they may not know everything that's going on in a situation, and how to kind of really be as welcoming as possible to people. It's been very successful. But here I am now, and I'm imagining, okay, another thing I know is challenging, especially in the school age years, is getting on and off of a school bus, and also figuring out how to navigate a school bus. As far as I know, they haven't changed much since I was young. So it's got a sort of 2 big steps to get on, and then this sort of long, narrowish hallway or aisleway, and, seats that look less than appealing, right? They're sort of green or black and just, not exciting. So I wonder if you've ever thought about, or maybe you already are, like the application of some decals and working with bus companies about adding those to the flooring of the buses to help people kind of figure out and be more comfortable as they're doing something that really there's a requirement of safety on a bus, and it can make or break, especially somebody who's neurodivergent, it can kind of make or break their success at getting to school that day or not. So I was just curious if you've ever thought about that or explored it, because then I'm like, oh, city buses, all sorts of public transportation, like where, there's kind of no end to what you could do with this. Any thoughts there?
Yes, that is on the big list, Eliza, and it is a big list.
Yeah.
Stay focused. I feel like there's a lot more work we can be doing in school with different graphics on the walls, social emotional tools as well. Mm-hmm. Developing wall tracking trails. You talked about connectors and transitions. So even in the schools, if you have things on the floors, a lot of kids are immobile. They need things on the walls, visual things more readily. So we're actually developing something in conjunction with another organization, and it goes along the walls. And we've got 4 different styles, and they can use their hands or just visually track along. We're very excited about that as well.
That's great. I love hearing that you have a list. That's exciting, and that there's more to come. But this has been really enjoyable. We have to finish up. Is there anything that you'd like to share in the last minute or so that you were just the most proud of, or maybe the most excited about that might be coming up soon?
I'm very fortunate and to have found a place in the world to really improve the lives of people. I'm very proud. Just last week, we got an award for Innovators of the Year by the Think Duchess Business Alliance.
Oh yeah, congratulations!
Thank you. So that was huge. And tonight we're getting an award from our local scouting group. I'm a big volunteer. Like I said, I had 3 sons. So scouting has been really a large part of our life. Love the inclusivity of it as it evolves over time. So I've gotten a Women in Leadership Award tonight. So from a personal perspective, that's been wonderful too. But really, the fact that we're around in this economy through a pandemic, 13 years later, and still growing, I think that's a lot. I think we've got something special, and I think we come at it from a very deliberate and impactful, intentional way. And there's a lot of needs within the community. So I'm excited about all those things.
That's great. Congratulations on the awards and on all your success. It's really very impressive. And it's also just a lot of fun to check out all your products and to see them in use. And we appreciate, again, your support of our recent event. So Pamela Gunther from Fit and Fun Playscapes, thank you so much for being on the show. Check out their website at fitandfunplayscapes.com, and best of luck in the future.
Thank you so much.
This is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. And remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 36, a weekly presentation from Anderson Center for Autism, celebrating their centennial in 2024. Join them for another edition of the show next weekend.